Okay, guys, we just want to go through with you some of these theorems which outline the properties of parallelograms. This is section 6.2, okay? We see that there's a property, we know by definition, of course, that a parallelogram is a quadrilateral with two sets of parallel sides, okay? We also know that it being a quadrilateral says the sum of the angles is 360. So those are two properties you can't forget, and they're properties that are a result of the actual description or definition of a parallelogram. That is, again, two sets of opposite sides parallel, and the sum of all angles is 360. Now, we can show by drawing one diagonal that the diagonal separates the parallelogram into two congruent triangles. And then with the two congruent triangles, we can of course show that corresponding parts are equal, upon which we can illustrate that theorem 6.1, opposite sides of the parallelogram are congruent, as yet another property, okay? And also the other property which would result from that is opposite angles of the parallelogram are congruent. Okay, so we're getting a lot of properties here by definition. Two sets of sides are parallel. Also by definition, the sum of the angles is 360. Okay. Also, a third is that the diagonal separates the parallelogram into two congruent triangles. Okay. And then we pick up a fourth. The opposite sides of a parallelogram are congruent. We'll also pick up another one in that the opposite angles of a parallelogram are congruent. Okay. And then one other additional property that we'll pick up here is that the diagonals of the parallelogram will bisect each other. Okay. In the previous video, I showed you how to create the parallelogram. Okay, as we went through with this. Okay, we will also now walk through with you this worksheet that you will have to complete. Okay, and which you will find in your drive. One of which is asking you to construct the parallelogram as I did, as I illustrated for you, and measure the angles and make some conclusions about the angles. Next, we'll have to draw the diagonals as outlined here. I'd suggest that you just go through your drive and look at these instructions before coming in for class so that you can move swiftly through it, okay? And then paste in your picture there and be able to answer a few questions relevant to that. And then a third sketch dealing with the diagonals, and then lastly, a listing of the 7 properties of a parallelogram that you should know as part of your vocabulary, which of course you will apply subsequently to some algebra, as well as be tested on with probably in multiple choice format, but you still need to know these for the algebra as well. So again, okay, review the construction of the parallelogram, so that you can have a perfect parallelogram every time and twist it and see for yourself these properties which are going to apply, okay? And then also go through your drive and look at this document to know what is going to be expected of you, okay? And then also it would also help to preview those theorems 6.1, 6.2, and 6.3 found in section 6.2. Here's theorem 6.3. Here's theorem 6.1, and opposite sides of the parallelogram are congruent, and opposite angles of the parallelogram are congruent, and theorem 6.3, which says the diagonals bisect each other. Okay? And wouldn't hurt to look at the exercises, because the exercises will be, of course, the next thing we will look at which point we will apply the algebra to these situations. Okay? So that's it.